Hello everyone, it's Amy, and welcome back to, I think it's week 90 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. I think today is going to be our last video for Build Your Stash and Craft because we have built up so much stash that we have plenty to craft with and the tools to do it with. So right now it would make sense to start over for new people that are just starting, because we're so far into the series that anybody that starts watching now, they don't have 90 weeks worth of supplies purchased. And the biggest thing is, if you're just starting out crafting, go back to week 1. The weeks are numbered. The series was run twice, not exactly the same, but go back to week 1 and follow along. Week 1, week 2, week 3. That will help you build up your craft supplies in a way that is very reasonable. Now, the first series was $5 a week. The second time I did it, we went to $7.50. And that was just because prices kind of went up. I think we did the first series for 3 or 4 years, I think. Maybe not. But it is just, I don't have the time. This series was set up to say, buy these things and you can make these things. And then you'll have stuff to put in your collection of craft supplies. And, if you were to read a novel, you didn't have to buy it the very day it was published in order to enjoy it. So remember that when it comes to videos. You don't have to follow a series from the middle. Go back to the beginning. That series might have started, like my first series may have started 6 years ago. You can still start at week 1 and go through, and it will be just as fun to play along, and you'll be able to build up your supplies cheaply and slowly so that you're not breaking the bank. So if you're just a starting out crafter, go back to week 1 of Build Your Stash and Craft, or week 1 of the new Build Your Stash and Craft. Start there and build up your supplies because it's very fun to do. So, but what we might do now, we did buy a sewing machine in our series. At $7.50 a week, we had saved enough to buy a sewing machine. And so that is something that even if you're following this series, you very possibly have in your stash. And so I have decided I want to do a little bit of sewing. I've been watching Sonia making crazy patchwork, and I just think it's awesome. And that's Sonia Steptoe, and I love watching her videos. But so today we are going to make spools, thread spools. Well, or I want a spool to put my snippet roll on. And so this is something we made in Build Your Stash and Craft. We dyed this thread, or twine, and we made these little thread spools. And I've also made this one, and I've showed you how to dye your fabric this way also. But see, this one is a bigger one, and I just want to make one to hold the snippet roll that I'm going to make. Now, I used my sewing machine to sew this together the way that they do the crazy patchwork, which is, you just put on one piece and the next piece just has to cover the full length of that piece. And so long as you do that, you fold it, you set it down this way, sew it, or wait a minute, if I'm coming from that end, you would lay it upside down that way, sew it, and then fold it over, and all of your seams are already folded under. So again, upside down towards where you started, sew across it, and then when you fold it back over, you wind up having a seam there. So I am going to, I've done this one, and I am going to and actually I did start at this end. I'm getting sidetracked. So I want to make this like a crazy patchwork. And so I'm going to make a crazy snippet roll. And so I'm going to put some snippets on it like the snippets, and I'm going to put some bling on it and beads and all sorts of things. And then I want something to roll it around like this. So we're going to just make one. So there's a couple ways you can do it. This is 3 pieces of cardboard that I cut out. A little bit, I didn't leave it under the book long enough. Whenever you glue something, stick it under something heavy and let it sit there for a while till it dries, because that way it'll be nice and flat. But it's not going to hurt anything. So this is going to be my 2 ends. I'm going to use a paper towel roll for the center. But if you don't want to wait for your cardboard to glue together, again, like I said, this is 3 things of just plain old cardboard, and then the glue between it makes it really, really nice and sturdy. And so that's what you can use for the end. Or if you have any leftover bits of, this is foam board from when I built something, because I do build a lot of storage in my series and just on my channel because I love storage. But so what I did was I just held this down and then I just drew around it a few times so that I kind of got a bit of a dent in my foam core board, because that just makes it easier than just a nice light line to follow. I really made it heavy so it actually dented right in so that I could put my blade in there and it's not gonna slip out. It can still slip out, but not as easily. And then you're just going to cut around. And when you're cutting foam core board, you don't have to cut the whole thickness right from the start. If you try and do that, some of the foam inside sometimes kind of balls up and stops you from continuing. And if that happens, just stop, take your blade out, go past that little ball of foam, and then continue going until you get it all cut. And then you can kind of go back and pull that piece apart. But just go around it, you know, a few times. Don't get in a hurry and think that you have to do the whole thing all at once. Like right there, because it's so close to the edge, it grabbed that and kind of balled it up. So I'm just going to start past that, get back down in there, and just go around. And you're just going to keep going around and around and around until you get it cut off. And sometimes it's easier once you get a certain fullness to go back in and do it from the other side. Once you can see it from the other side, you can go back in and start, just because sometimes the paper just doesn't want to cut on the other side. So just keep going until you get the whole thing cut out. Once you get the whole thing cut out, you'll have your 2 circles. And then you're going to do it just the way I'm going to do it with my cardboard circles. So decide how wide you want your roll to be. Do you want it to be, let's see, where's the ruler here? This one is about 2 3/4 inches. These are 2 inches. So you're going to want to cut your paper roll to be as wide as you want it, plus about 1 inch or 1.5 inches. So this is, and I want to be able to have a little bit of stuff kind of hanging off the edges and stuff. So this is 3 1/4 inches. So I'm going to cut it, 4 inches would give me 3/4 of an inch. That's not enough. I'm going to do 4 1/2 inches. Because what we need to do is we're going to cut some little tabs at each end to glue to our circle. So what did I say, 4 1/2? I did. All right, so we're going to cut it at 4 1/2. And we are going to cut it in half, so I'm going to do that right now. Because I don't really want to squish my circle. I don't want to squish my paper towel roll. So if I cut it the full length, I will be able to cut around easier without smashing the roll. I want to keep that roundness to it. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of open it up and just follow those dots. Okay, so now what we're going to do is you're going to make it a little bit smaller, because you can make it the full width of this, but by the time I put that on here, I hardly have any room left to roll my fabric around. And actually this one right here, this is a full roll. This one I did not cut. But there's just not that much room on there, and I want a little bit more room than that. So we're just going to kind of roll it around. And then before we glue it together, so now I have a smaller core for my okay, so I wanted this to be, how wide did I want it to be? I wanted it to be 3.5 inches. All right, so 3.5 inches, and we did it 4.5 inches. So I'm going to come in 1/2 inch on each side. So that we can fold it over and have something to glue to. Whenever you're drawing a line, if you make 3 marks, you're more than likely going to be straighter than if you do 2. If you do 2 and one is shorter or longer than the other, like if I did one at 1/2 inch and one at 3/4, you may not notice. But if you have 3 marks and one of them's off, when you go to line the 3 marks up, they're not going to line up. One of them will line up not quite right. So now that we've done this, we're just going to come in here and just cut out some little triangles because we're making little tabs that we can fold over. So leave a bit of space, a little bit of flat space. You don't have to measure it. You don't need a certain number. And because we're going to roll it up, I am going to probably cut off a little bit off the other end. Okay, I'm just going to cut a little bit of this off. There is no, you can, figure out a pattern for yourself as far as, oh, I want them all, I want to make a bunch and I want them all to be exactly the same, but you're not going to see the tabs anyway, so it really does not matter if they're all exactly the same. It doesn't matter if this side's the same as that side. All right, so what we're going to do now is, because we're going to roll it like this, we want these to be on the inside, so we're going to fold those over on the line. It was easier to fold over the other side. I have 4 tabs. This one's only 3. The 4 are easier to fold over and will probably be easier to deal with. I'm going to have to make these even a little smaller. They'll be easier to deal with when I fold it over if they're smaller. I haven't made one in a long time, so some things whenever you're building something, you'll usually find out that as you're doing it, it's like, oh, it's easier to do it this way or that way. There we go. So we're going to start with the part that we cut off. That's going to be the center of our tube. And the reason I didn't just cut it off this way is because I want that extra strength. Now we're just going to glue it. Okay, so we've got the glue on the inside. And we're going to fold these up like this. You want your tube to be about the same on each end. You don't want it to be real fat on one end and real skinny on the other, because otherwise when you go to roll your fabric or whatever you're rolling, especially if it's a piece of white fabric, it's going to get off kilter because it will start to shift if there's too much of a difference. And if you want, you could put something in here, like a glue stick or something, so that when you roll up both ends, they're exactly the same. I wonder if it's about this size. There. See, it's about that size. So that way, and that also then gives you something to push against when you're trying to dry the glue and when you're trying to line it up a little bit. Because that's a little crooked. Okay, let's see how that works. That looks about even. That glue caught really quick, but now that I pulled it apart, I'm going to put a little bit more right here along the edge because you want that to stick. And now the best thing to do with this would be to wrap some string around it or a rubber band to keep it nice and tight for a little while and let it dry. I would say let it dry for like a half an hour or an hour. You know, make a bunch, batch make them so that you'll have them, and make different sizes if you want to, if you don't think that you need more than one of any certain size. Make some for string, make some for your snippet rolls if you've got ribbon or lace or something that you need to deal with. The nice thing, what I like about these is I leave these sit out. They're sitting up like on a desk or on a shelf, or because I think they're cute. I like the way that they look. And so that's the reason that I like the rolls, is because they don't have it stuffed into a box. And then I can also see some of the things I have, because I do have a lot of stuff stuffed into boxes too. So then you're going to fold these down. I fold them in because if you fold them out, which you can do, you could do it either way. You can fold them out and glue them like this. But then what happens is when you're wrapping your stuff, they want to catch on this. Even though you've glued it down there flat, they kind of want to catch as you're rolling things in. So if you put these to the inside, that was something I learned because I used to roll them or put them on the outside. It works better and they don't get in your way. My glue just leaked all over the table. That's what, this is just plain old tacky glue. But I'll use what leaked out of there. So you're just going to put that on your tabs. And again, like I said, it'd be better to hold this with a rubber band. And the thing is, you can put a rubber band on it and then still do this part right here. And then just take the rubber band off later. Maybe give it a snip if you can't get it off easily. Fold that in. Put it on here. And if it's not perfectly round, that's okay. But the one thing you do want to try and do is you want to try and get that in the middle, about the same all the way around. It does not have to be perfect, but you don't want to get it way far over on one side or another, because you want to, as you're wrapping, you don't want to be able to wrap over here and it's inside your spool, and over here it's outside the spool because you've got your center core way over here. So just approximately, you could take your ruler and go around. Now I need to find my other circle. There it is. And make sure that it's all exact. I don't usually do that. I just kind of eyeball it and make sure that it looks about right. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So this is what it looks like. We definitely need that glue to dry, so I probably will at least tie a string around there or put a rubber band, but now that I've got these on, it'll be easier to tie a string. Let's see if it's going to work for our snippet roll. I just don't want to let go at the ends because they'll just pop off and my glue is wet. But that looks like that's going to work just fine. I've got a little extra space at the bottom and the top, so if I have anything hanging over the edges, that'll be all right. I could have made it maybe even just a touch bigger if I want stuff to hang over. And by the time that I get little bits and bobs in there, I wanted to have enough room that it would still pretty much fit. I don't mind if it sticks out a little bit, but I don't want it to stick out a whole lot. So see, I have room to put stuff in, you know, to finish this snippet roll with little beads and little crocheted items and that type of thing. I want to do some stitching on it and, you know, just something to do. I don't have as much time to craft as I used to, so if you don't have a lot of time, sometimes maybe just a little bit of stitching. Stitching takes a long time to finish something, but you can do a little bit in a short period of time, so that you just feel like you've got something done. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Maybe I'll come back and show you some stitches. Now, this right here, what I need to do now is I'm going to set it down, and I'm going to put a book on it, something heavy that will hold it. And now that now that it's all put together, we can do that and put something heavy on it, and that will hold it down. So that's not heavy enough right now, but I don't have a book right here. But I will stick a book on that. That's what I usually do. Maybe even stick a couple of smaller books to give some weight, just so that all that can stay in contact while the glue is drying. That's the biggest thing. You really want your glue to dry. Whatever you're making, especially, that is something that you can use over and over again. It is not, you're not going to use up that spool, so you want to make it so it will last a really long time. And then you can paint them if you want to. You can not paint them if you don't want to. You can do it however you want to. You can even do something fancy and cute on the top. So, which is also that's fun to do also. So there was something else. Oh, I was going to show you, no, that's not it. Oh, I got an old book. Taking the glue off my hands. Oh, and it's out in the other room. So maybe the next time I come on, I'll show you. I got an old book. I don't even know. I think it's from like maybe the 40s or 50s. And it's a stitching book. And so the stitches are still the same today as they were back then. So I'm going to use that book because I don't know a lot of the stitches. And I want to try, like I've been watching everybody do them, so sometimes I think I have the hang of it, and then I try it and I don't quite have the hang of it. So I've got the book, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to do the stitches on here as I go through the book, so that I can learn some of those stitches and find out which ones I like and which ones I don't. If you watch people that are doing the snippets and that type of thing, that are doing the crazy patchwork, you'll find out that they use the same stitch a lot. Now, they don't all each use the same one as each other. They all seem to use like a stitch more than other stitches, and I think it's because it's their favorite stitch. I think that you get favorite stitches, so I want to try them all out and see which ones I like the best, which ones I'll wind up using a lot. I don't know. And so maybe maybe I'll do a small series on working on the snippet roll. I'm not 100% sure. We are still working on our coffee table book, and so that is my series for now. And then I think I might just pop in and out and either show you what I've got done, or maybe do a few stitches. Maybe as I learn the stitches, I'll just come on for a quick 15-20 minutes or something and show you the stitch that I've learned and how to do it. So thank you very much for stopping by. And again, thank you so much for following my series. I do have a coffee table book series, which is going to be fun. It's kind of like a sign-in book for your guests for over the years, and something that will be nice to sit out on your coffee table or wherever in your home that others can look at, and something that you can create that I think is going to be real fun. So thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you for all of your support. You've all been so supportive over the years. Thanks again, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.